What if one person's courage could change everything? Seriously, their selfless decision in a crisis and absolute dedication? It earned them the highest military honor. We're diving into how that one heroic move completely transformed a life and sealed their place in history. The Medal of Honor is awarded to individuals who demonstrate extraordinary courage, selflessness, and devotion to duty in the most dangerous circumstances. It is reserved for those who risk their own lives without hesitation to save others. While many recipients earn this honor through acts of combat heroism, some are remembered for something equally powerful: compassion under fire. One of the most remarkable examples of this kind of heroism is Sergeant First Class Alfred Velasquez Rascon, a combat medic in the United States Army during the Vietnam War. On March 16, 1966, in the jungles of Vietnam, Rascon repeatedly exposed himself to enemy fire to save wounded soldiers, even while suffering from severe injuries himself. His courage that day reflected not only physical bravery, but deep humanity. His story represents the highest ideals of military service. Alfred V. Rascon was born on September 10, 1945 in Chihuahua, Mexico. As a child, he crossed into the United States illegally with his family and grew up in poverty in Arizona and California. His childhood was extremely difficult. Rascon often experienced hunger, homelessness, and instability. At times, his family lived in abandoned buildings and relied on charity to survive. Despite these hardships, Rascon developed strong resilience and empathy. Growing up without security taught him the value of kindness and loyalty. These early experiences shaped his character and later influenced his actions as a soldier. He attended high school in California but struggled academically and socially. Feeling disconnected and uncertain about his future, he decided to join the U.S. Army at the age of 17. At the time, Rascon was not a U.S. citizen. He enlisted under a false name and identity in order to serve. This decision would later become important in his life story. Rascon joined the Army in 1963 and completed basic training. He soon volunteered for medic training, choosing a role focused on saving lives rather than taking them. Combat medics face some of the greatest dangers in war. They are required to move toward gunfire, not away from it, in order to treat wounded soldiers. They carry no heavy weapons and rely mainly on their courage and medical skills. He trained hard, learned emergency procedures, and developed strong bonds with his fellow soldiers. After training, he was assigned to the 173rd Airborne Brigade and deployed to Vietnam in 1965. By early 1966, Rascon was serving as a platoon medic in Company A's 2nd Battalion, 503rd Infantry Regiment. The Vietnam War was marked by difficult terrain, guerrilla warfare, and constant danger. Dense jungles limited visibility. Enemy fighters often attacked without warning and disappeared quickly. American soldiers operated in small units, conducting patrols and search and destroy missions. These operations were physically exhausting and mentally stressful. Medics like Rascon were constantly in demand. Almost every mission involved injuries from gunfire, mines, booby traps, or disease. Despite the danger, Rascon earned the trust of his unit. Soldiers knew he would reach them no matter what. On March 16, 1966, Rascon's platoon was conducting a patrol near Long Cam Province in South Vietnam. The area was heavily fortified by enemy forces. Dense vegetation provided excellent concealment for Viet Cong fighters. As the platoon advanced, they suddenly walked into a well-prepared ambush. Enemy machine guns, rifles, and grenades opened fire from multiple directions. Several soldiers were immediately hit. Others were pinned down and unable to move. The platoon was in grave danger of being overrun. As soon as the ambush began, Rascon moved forward without hesitation. Ignoring bullets striking around him, he ran toward the wounded. He treated injured soldiers one by one, applying bandages, administering morphine, and helping them reach cover. At one point, he ran across open ground repeatedly, fully exposed to enemy fire. During one of these movements, Rascon was hit by shrapnel and wounded. Despite this, he refused evacuation. Instead, he continued treating others, refusing to leave the battlefield. As the battle intensified, enemy fire increased. Several soldiers were severely wounded and could not move. Rascon realized that if he left, many of them would die. When evacuation helicopters attempted to land, the area was too dangerous. Enemy fire forced them away. Rascon chose to stay behind with the wounded. Even when ordered to withdraw, he refused until all injured men were safe. He shielded wounded soldiers with his own body and returned fire when necessary. During the battle, Rascon was wounded multiple times. He suffered injuries to his back, arms, and legs. Shrapnel pierced his body. He lost significant blood. Despite intense pain and exhaustion, he continued working. At one point, he was nearly unconscious but forced himself to stay awake. He crawled from man to man, whispering encouragement and reassurance. Witnesses later said his presence kept wounded soldiers alive emotionally as well as physically. Staying until the end, the fighting lasted. Eventually, U.S. forces gained control of the area and evacuation helicopters were able to land. After every wounded soldier had been evacuated, did Rascon agree to be taken out. By then, he was barely conscious and near death. Doctors later stated that he would not have survived much longer on the battlefield. Rascon spent months recovering in military hospitals. He underwent multiple surgeries and faced long-term physical pain. During this time, his false identity was discovered. He admitted that he had enlisted under an assumed name because he was undocumented. As a result, he was temporarily denied full recognition and benefits. This complicated his military record and delayed his career advancement. Despite this setback, Rascon continued serving in the Army. He eventually became a legal U.S. citizen and rebuilt his career. For his actions in 1966, Rascon was initially awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. Many of his fellow soldiers believed he deserved the Medal of Honor. However, because of his immigration status and administrative issues, his case was not properly reviewed. For decades, his story remained largely unknown. In the 1990s, journalists and fellow veterans began advocating for a re-evaluation of his award. Detailed eyewitness accounts were collected. These testimonies confirmed that Rascon had repeatedly risked his life far beyond duty. After years of review, Rascon's award was upgraded. On February 8, 2000, President Bill Clinton presented Alfred Rascon with the Medal of Honor at the White House. More than 34 years had passed since the battle. During the ceremony, Rascon emphasized that the medal belonged to his fellow soldiers. He spoke emotionally about the men he had tried to save and dedicated his medal to fellow soldiers. So this was the incredible story about a truly amazing hero. Their courage and spirits seriously still inspire us today. If you love this, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends. It really helps us bring you more stories of real bravery.